Would Dr. Bill Stanish please come up? I thought we weren't going to get anything on you, but some stuff came in late. Bill Stanish was born in Toronto on July 5th, 1944, when he was a high school student. His father was transferred to Charlottetown, where he completed grade 12, the first year of post-secondary education at Prince of Wales College, the school presently known as UPEI. He left there as an honor student, having twice been voted the Athlete of the Year. He then went to Dal, managing to twice receive, once again, the Dalhousie Athlete of the Year award. While a full-time med student, he somehow found time to play JV basketball simply for the fun of it, and hockey and football in a way that if one were asked to describe it, the word fun would be one of the last words used. In his first year at Dal, athletic director Ken Gowie told him if he didn't cut back on his record-breaking time in the penalty box, despite his MVP status, he'd not be permitted to play the following year. Gowie's threat was backed up by the other passion in Bill's life, his high school sweetheart, Carol Foster, who fought throughout Bill's athletic career with a love-hate relationship. Her love for the man eventually overshadowed her hate for his athletic antics, and Bill was able to calm down enough to both appease Gowie and convince Carol that all would be different when they got married. His teammates shared none of Carol's reservations as the football team voted him captain on 3 occasions, and the hockey team did the same thing. On the basis of a 5-touchdown performance against Acadia, quarterback Bill Stanish was named Canadian Collegiate Athlete of the Week during the 1965 season. Now, I watched Dal football throughout the early 70s until they withdrew from intercollegiate competition, and I don't remember Dal scoring 5 times against Acadia in the whole of that period. The only time his fellow med students could remember Bill eating humble pie occurred in old Professor Fife's anatomy lab. In it, the students were asked to draw straws to act as models for the various parts of the body. Bill drew the short straw to model for the whole class the reproductive system. His classmates took great delight in learning that at least one part of Bill Stanish seemed to be no different than anybody else's. Bill Stanish is an A-rated squash player. He's a competitive golfer sporting a 5 handicap. He's completed the New York Marathon and twice completed the one in Montreal. Bill and Carol's daughters, not surprisingly, took up sports other than those in which Bill had a degree of expertise. This didn't reduce their embarrassment when he insisted on coaching Heidi in her balance beam routines and Gretel on how best to get the horse to jump. Carol and Bill would drive to watch the kids participate, but Bill was quickly banished to the other side of the venue once his passionately presented suggestions began to manifest themselves. There's a special section way up in the corner of every maritime venue, which is reserved for Carol and Patty Lynch, so that they can get away from their raving husbands at sporting contests. Heidi delights in remembering her Acadia soccer experiences, which include an AUAA final in which her father, who'd never kicked a soccer ball in his life, ran down the sideline instructing her on how to defend against her opponent who had the ball. Heidi started to laugh so hard she couldn't mark the player who made a beautiful crossing pass which almost cost Acadia the game and the eventual national championship. And by the way, she wanted to remind you that you never won a national championship. Bill was assumedly better equipped to coach the Dal JV hockey team, which he did for 1 season. Of course, none of these things have anything to do with this induction. Our real reason for singling Bill Stanish out for this special honor tonight has to do with the fact that in between all this seemingly time-consuming recreational schedule, he also dabbles a bit in sport medicine. How's it possible that anyone could accomplish all that he has? His cohorts say, well, he does have a phenomenal memory, but the truth is the only explanation for these and his thousands of other accomplishments rests in that very energy level which occasionally embarrasses his family. He's a man constantly on the go. Typical weekend saw him perform several operations on Friday, then drive to Digby Pines Golf Course, play 9 poorly lit holes of golf as a warm-up, grab 2 quick beers with his buddies, go back to the room to organize a slideshow he was to give in Ceylon or some other damn place, hit the rack for a solid 3 hours of sleep, rouse fully rested, play 36-hole best ball tournament in which he and partner Gil Ross scored 66-68, jump in his car to speed to the airport only to find out later that Ross had lost in a playoff to another 2-ball team which had an identical stroke total because he had to compete against them in a playoff all by himself. Despite this grueling way of life, his co-workers say he's absolutely always pleasant, always positive, always able to treat everyone with respect, regardless of whether the patient is a professional superstar or merely writes for the mail star like Joel Jacobson. He's reported as being sensitive to individual concerns, no matter how silly they may seem to others. An example of a time when he wishes he'd been a little bit more aware occurred on the Champlain Bridge in Montreal at the start of his first Montreal Marathon. Bill had swapped his new padded sweatshirt with his close friend and co-worker Jill Tasker because she'd been chilly. Then, because it turned out to be tradition, he fired her sweatshirt off into the St. Lawrence at race time, only to find out there was a piece of clothing to which she was very, very much attached. Friends had to stop him as he almost went over the bridge to retrieve the missing article. Bill Stanish became Dr. Bill Stanish in 1970. He honed his orthopedic surgical skills at Dal, the world-famous Stoke Mandeville Hospital in England, and down the States where he learned to park his car in the Harvard Yard. You probably need not be told that he was at the top of his class in each of these training situations. He's licensed to practice medicine in the UK and Massachusetts, and I guess, in case he ever has to make a fast getaway, he's also licensed in the West Indies. Many of you know that he was a founder of a highly prized sports medicine clinic here in Nova Scotia, but few of you would know that he's deputy editor for the most revered periodical in his field, the Journal of Bone and Joint Surgery. He was co-editor of the Oxford University textbook on sports medicine. He's held executive positions on many provincial, national, and international medical societies. He's been president of the Orthopedic Society of Nova Scotia, the Canadian Academy of Sport Medicine, and the Herodotus Sport Medicine Society, which certainly sound like it's more important than all those other things. He's performed operations in the University Hospital of the West Indies, the Children's Hospital, the Milton Hospital, both of them in Massachusetts, the Dartmouth Emergency, the VG, the Dartmouth General, Camp Hill, the Halifax Civic, Isaac Walton, Nova Scotia Rehab, and the Fisherman's Memorial in Lunenburg. Within his field, he's fostered research in the physiology of ligaments and tendons, knee biomechanics, and he's authored about 150 articles and several books, including Tendinitis, Its Etiology and Treatment, now in its second edition. Bill Stanish, ladies and gentlemen, was the first in the Maritimes to perform arthroscopic surgery, the first to do reconstructive surgery using a scope. He was the first in Canada to use electrical stimulation to promote tendon ligament healing, and he was the first in the world to transplant knee menisci, first in dogs and then in humans, a process he introduced to the rest of the world in 1986. He's taught at Dal for the last 20 years, and he's gained a worldwide reputation as a lecturer. As you might expect, this is not the first time he's been fussed over. Our research turned up over 80 major awards and honors he's received. Perhaps the most prestigious of these, as far as our interests go, was his appointment as Chief Medical Officer for 2 Canadian Olympic teams, the one that went to LA in 1984 and the one which competed in Seoul in 1988. He is as well a member of the Olympic Trust. And while we might not know what that is either, we do know that there's no orthopedic surgeon in Canada who deserves more trust than Dr. Stanish. A year before he went to Seoul, he was asked to speak in Toronto to a group of bigwigs who were about to shape the future of Canadian sport. He told them that he was personally aware of Canadian athletes who were using steroids. Otto Jelinek responded by accusing him of having reefer madness. Had the group moved on the Stanish speech instead of the Jelinek speech, there's every reason to believe that the Ben Johnson scandal would never have occurred. Dr. Bill Stanish, ladies and gentlemen, has rebuilt and rehabilitated more limbs and encouraged more athletes and non-athletes alike back to active lifestyle than anyone else his age could possibly claim to have done. While not wishing to offer names because of patient confidentiality, he's performed major surgery on players from the NFL, NHL, CFL, NBA, PGA, and the LPGA. We all know him to be at least a billionaire, owning a whole bunch of Maseratis and stuff. But he could have been a zillionaire owning a fleet of Learjets if he'd taken up one of the myriad of offers he was received over the years to set up business down in the United States. After traveling the world over, he brags. There's no place in the world where he feels as safe as he feels when he's running in the mornings in Point Pleasant Park. And he brags that there's no place more beautiful than here in Nova Scotia, especially this time of year. And he brags that we're his people. Tonight, we thank this world-famous blue noser for staying home and tending his flock. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bill Stanish.
To make the presentation, I would like to call upon Dr. David Alexander, Director of Orthopedics of the Queen Elizabeth II Health Sciences Center, representing the Orthopedic Association of Nova Scotia. That ovation speaks for itself. You know, there are people, since you were elected as a builder for your work in sports medicine, people have suggested you could have been elected as an athlete. Who else was captain of the Dalhousie Tiger football and hockey teams in the same season? Nobody else. And your work in, you're playing squash and golf has been noticed, but your daughter Heidi wrote us a very thoughtful letter. It was a beautiful letter, and she praised you for all of the great virtues that are contained in the makeup. But she said, please don't advise her how to play soccer.
Well, that will be the first time that she's ever done anything thoughtful.
Would you trade this for an athlete category?
I think not, Pat. No, I'm just very grateful for the chance to be among such splendid people, and I'm very proud to be in Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia very proud of you, as witnessed by the tremendous ovation that you received following Sandy's excellent summation of your work. Chief of Sports Medicine for the Canadian Olympic delegation for the Olympics in two successive years. Tremendous distinction.
Well, it was, and in fact, I still think of those times, and particularly the time in Seoul, South Korea, where I might add that in spite of the Ben Johnson circumstance, that there was wonderful camaraderie with your Canadian athletes that in fact were able to soldier on and square their shoulders and do an incredible job in spite of the fact that we had such international backlash.
Sports medicine has played such a tremendous role, a vital role in the athletic world, rehabilitating athletes, reviving careers that 20 years ago would have ended. Can we assume the best is yet to come in that field?
Oh, absolutely, and I echo the sentiment of Dorothy Walker that sport medicine has really changed in its texture. It historically was sports injuries principally for the elite athlete, but we're very much into fostering the idea of sport and recreation for all. And if there's anything that our clinic can do to help in that effort, we're in the front and center.
Thank you very much. Again, congratulations. Dr. Bill Stanish, ladies and gentlemen.